Hello, and welcome to another virtual author chat at the Poison Pen Bookstore. Today, the Poison Pen is delighted to have with us author Geri Krotow, whose new book is A Santa Stabbing. Before we begin, I do want to let those tuning in know that the Poison Pen does have copies of Geri's new book, and we would be delighted to hold one or more for you to pick up in the store or put them in the mail and get them out to you. Just give us a call at the Poison Pen or go online. And now I'd like to welcome Geri.
Hi, it's great to be here, John. Thanks for having me.
We're delighted to have you with us for the first time at the Poison Pen.
Yeah.
I think many readers are always fascinated, at least I am, by who an author was before they became published. So, what can you tell us about Geri? And I know you
Hmm.
have a pretty impressive resume in your background.
It depends who you're thank you for saying that, but it depends who you're talking to because yeah, I served in the military for 9 years, active duty as a naval intelligence officer, and I was in uniform for 13 years because I went to the Naval Academy. So yeah, in uniform all 4 years there. I'm really grateful to have that experience behind me, and I always wanted to serve my country, so it was a natural fit. And I owe the Navy my writing career because I was on watch during it was the war on drugs, and meaning on watch like 12 hours on, 12 hours off. And it was the middle of the night. It was like 3 in the morning. And somebody I worked with asked me if you could do anything if money wasn't an object, what would it be? Besides the Navy or whatever. And I didn't even hesitate. I said that I would be a writer. And actually, what I said was I'd be barefoot with hair down to my ass writing. I said romance novels at the time because that's where my goal was to break in that way. And of course, all my books always have a twist in them, always a little too twisty, maybe. But at any rate, I'm digressing. Yeah, I served as an intelligence officer. And then when I got out, it was to pursue a fiction writing career. But also, we had one child already. My husband is also a Naval Academy grad. He was a year ahead of me. And he made it a career. And I'm the kind of person I couldn't be torn between. I
Mhm.
just didn't want the worry of both of us being deployed. And that's why I never went in the reserves. A lot of people have asked me that. It would have been lovely to keep serving once a month and 2 weeks a year. But as intelligence and the way things unfolded in the world, I would have been called to active duty as much as my husband on active duty. So it wasn't a way to really raise a family for us. And so I made the decision to stay home full time. So in doing that, I was writing as full time as I could and supporting my husband's career, which is a Navy family moving around, and he was gone in the war and all those things. And I just want to give a shout out to anyone who's serving now or has served. Thank you. There's a lot of spouses serving,
Yeah.
male and female, alongside their kids. And if you're a writer and you're a spouse writer, keep going for it because the experiences I gained living all over the world and just in America, in the microcosm of the military, plus going through these life altering events, like realizing when you say goodbye, your husband might not come home or your wife might not come home. Mom might never come back again. Yeah, the gravitas of that, I guess, kept me grounded and added some meat to my writing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, you decided to become a writer, and I think it's
Yeah.
safe to say that you were not an overnight sensation in publishing.
No. Um, so I found a writing group, Romance Writers of America, which didn't exist. It broke up, and I guess now they're reforming. I found them in 1999, and it was a great way to network. And so I had a completed manuscript by then, but I didn't start submitting till 2000. It took me 6 years of rejections before I actually was bought by Harlequin. I won an international contest they had, along with two people who remain dear friends of mine, Tracy Wolf, who's the author of the Crave series, which has international success now. It's a YA vampire romance series. And then my other friend, Linda Cardillo, who has written very evocative women's fiction. And so the three of us won that contest. And so I sold in 2006, and my first book, which now would be classified, I think, as women's fiction, World War II, came out in 2007. And and Harlequin I was supposed to be in what was going to be a trade paperback line. That didn't happen. It was announced that the line was closing before my book even came out. So I got rolled into Super Romance. And then I wrote many books for them, but I was adding too much suspense to my stories. So then I made a dash for a bid to get into Harlequin's, one of their suspense lines. And I was rejected in-house at Harlequin for many different lines. And it's not a victimhood or poor me thing. It's just, your writing either is what
Clicks,
they
he
need,
doesn't.
or yeah,
Yeah.
it either clicks or it doesn't. And I feel that I fit really well in Harlequin romantic suspense. But my agent did notice that my proposals were getting more and more mystery, less romance. I'll always have romance in my books because I'm of the opinion there's romance in every story. It's part of life. But I also, it was just time to make the change. So no overnight success. I'm very blessed that my agent that I met, Tracy Wolf, introduced us. She introduced us twice. She introduced us in right when I first sold, so maybe '07, '08. But I thought, oh, I don't have the chops yet. I always had this feeling that I had to give myself my own apprenticeship because I don't have a degree in English.
Mm,
Um, Both my degrees are masters of, science, or bachelor's and masters of science, because that's what the Navy told me to do.
mhm.
So long story short, the second time Tracy introduced me to my agent, I was at another big writing conference, New York City, 2015. And I wanted to go up to my room and take a nap because the overload of all the people. And I got a text from Tracy, and she said, "Meet me in front of the concierge to meet Emily in 15 minutes. Do not blow me off." Because she knew me. I would be like, no, no, she won't want me. Well, anyway, Emily has been my agent's a true business partner and trusted colleague. And I wish that for every writer. And that's how we got here with the mystery, because she kept seeing what I was writing and said, "Why don't you try mystery?" And here we are.
I think I had read somewhere, this leads us to your new book, A Santa Stabbing, that
Mhm.
after writing so many romantic suspense novels, you had become used to including dead bodies in your books.
I
So mystery was the next logical step for you.
Yeah, I don't know how to have a story without a dead body, and it's not flippant.
No.
I think what I'm learning. I just got asked to speak on a panel. It'll be in a couple weeks at Penn State. It'll be the Penn State Harrisburg Extension. A professor, Shanti, and I can't think of her last name right now. It's on my website. She wrote a book, a nonfiction book about justice for females, specifically female felons, and how justice is served in our society and how it affects women. But it really got me thinking about, and then being a member of Sisters in Crime, there's a lot of discussion about this too, is about what does justice mean to everybody. And um, just like in a romance, there's the happily ever after. I need to have the justice at the end of a mystery. And I think that's why I like the dead body part, because I like that the protagonist is going to really come up against somebody who's committed evil, whether it was by accident or premeditated or however, and justice needs to prevail for the person that died. So I love that part of it.
What can you tell us about your new book, A Santa Stabbing?
Well, I did draw on what I knew a little bit, and that my protagonist, Angel Warren, was a helicopter pilot in the Navy. I was not a pilot. I fought getting motion sick. Whenever I'd go up, I did earn aviation observer wings, which basically just means I put the time in flying and memorized at the time circuit breakers. All that's electronic now, in a P-3 aircraft. But we were prosecuting Soviet submarines, which
Yeah.
I think the Russians are still driving some of those, but I'm out of the field now. um, so there's much smarter people than me working those issues. Yeah, so I had Angel Warren, and I knew my characters come to me first, and I knew she was going to return to her hometown.
Mhm.
and her hometown is based on, it's a fictionalized version of where I live in Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania, which is actually a large town. There's a borough, and then like my zip code's Mechanicsburg, but I don't live in the actual town proper. I live out in a true suburb of it. And so Angel comes back after 20 some years. And, I understand how it feels to come back to the States and to settle down, and the longing for that when you're it's not always there while you're globe trotting, but it at a certain point, I know for me, in my gut, I knew it's time to go back. And as much as I love my husband and supported his career, I prayed he wouldn't get another promotion. I didn't really, but I thought, oh, I really want to settle down, and just it's time to have some roots.
Mhm.
And so Angel comes back. And the unique thing about Angel, she lost her husband 6 years ago. He died of a horrible rare cancer. And so she's coming back as a single mother with two twin daughters who are off to college as soon as they come back. And that happened to me in real life. Our oldest went off to college as soon as we came back to the States after years abroad. So I could relate to that. But Angel's a lot different than me. She's bolder, she's more inquisitive outwardly, and she's not going to take guff from anyone. And she also has to learn that, she was gone. She missed out on some things with her family. I tried to inject some humor into it, and the best way I know to do that is with pets and animals. We have a yellow-naped Amazon parrot that is 34 years old. We've
Wow.
had him since he was 2. He's moved everywhere with us except Russia, because when we were stationed in Belgium, he was there with us also in Italy. But when it was ready to come back from Belgium to the States, we had bird flu. So I was afraid he couldn't come back, but he's been everywhere with us. So I wanted Angel to have a similar pet. And Ralph, who's her pet parrot, plays a significant part in this first book. So Angel comes back and is fulfilling a dream that she and her husband, who's deceased, had to open a curio shop, gift shop, that to share all the international trinkets that they found around the world, and also to be able to bring like tastes of different cultures to such, a homegrown American place, to give people an opportunity to just at least get a glimpse of some of what they feel was a privilege to see with their family. But of course, she stumbles over a dead body in her storage room before the shop even opens. And so, and it turns out her best friend is from high school, is now the lead detective for the local police force. They had drifted apart. And so, how their relationship, is it going to go back to being best friends? And if it does, obviously they're both grown women now. What can they share and contribute to the relationship and bring to the table? That's all part of it too. And then Angel's relationships with her family, and then the love interest too. There's a love interest, of course, in the coffee shop. So
Um, the book is set around the holiday time, and you do have those kind
mhm.
of Christmas traditions woven in. But the hook for your series is this is not just a Christmas kind of thing, it's about different holidays and different traditions.
Right. So I wanted Angel's shop to represent any culture she had witnessed, or seen. So I have the shop full of all kinds of things, from like the Russian Santas, which are in Russia, they're called Deds Moroz, which is the father of snow. And they're beautiful wooden sculptures. They're works of art. And they're heavy. And I should have brought one up here to show you. I brought some back from when we were stationed in Russia. And that always means Christmas in our house when I bring those out and set them around. Um, and she has a collection of those, and that is perceived to be the murder weapon, actually, is a wooden stake through the heart. I was thinking, obviously I'm a Dracula fan. So at any rate, I incorporated some Diwali linens and the bright colors of that. And any just because like where we live here, our subdivision is so um multinational and diverse, and it's great because I get to experience all the different holidays, and it reminds me of being in the military and overseas, and you learn about all these different traditions people celebrate that I had no idea of. I just knew the traditional American, Judeo-Christian type holidays, and those are wonderful and worthwhile to celebrate too. So I try to do a little bit of everything. And I'm really blessed because my editor at Thule, who's the publisher for this book, Sinclair, is married to an Indian. So she was happy to see Diwali mentioned, and keeps me straight too, so that I don't make any mistakes, because I am not of that culture, and it's easy to make mistakes out of ignorance, and that's no excuse these days.
Mhm. Um, a Santa stabbing is classified or marketed as a cozy mystery.
Mhm,
I
mhm.
would like, if you can, to have you describe what you perceive to be a cozy mystery. And to be honest, I'm a bit surprised because given your previous books, I would have thought you had gone into like dark suspense or
Uh-huh.
national intrigue or something like that.
Yes.
Why cozies?
Uh, I think because my strength as a writer, well, so my definition of a cozy,
Mhm,
there's the dead body, and there's nothing cozy about murder. I think what really defines a cozy is the community, and
mm,
that's why they're so popular as series. Because as a reader, I know when I read cozies, I'm going back for the community and to see what's going on, what's happened with so and so, the protagonist. If there's a love interest, has that progressed? And I'm always curious as to how the murders will be solved differently depending on how the relationships have developed. Plus, it's just a feeling of security to go back to a community that I feel I've been in before. As readers, we live in these communities. And so I really enjoy creating that too. I don't know how not to create a community or a series. I was a little nervous about the cozy classification because I think I'm cozy with an edge. But there are plenty, cozy is a wide range. It's a little bit wider range now
mm,
of what's allowed and it's not even a matter of allowed. It's what readers will handle. Like Louise Penny definitely does not write cozy in terms of the murders and the high concept topics that she tackles, and yet the
mm,
cozy part of her book is going back to Three Pines, Inspector Gamache, just feeling so familiar with all the people there, and Ruth with her goose or duck on her
mm.
lap. And that's what I go back for. I don't go back for the murder, although I'm always interested to see what the author is going to plan next.
You've written a lot of books, more than 25 novels, and counting. Has your writing process changed over the years, especially when it comes to writing a mystery? Because there needs to be, you need to kind of plot the clues out. You can't, I guess some writers can just wing it, but what's your
Yeah.
approach to
Um,
writing?
well, what I've found in writing mysteries is if I wing it, I'm going to have extensive revisions, which I
Uh,
have right now on one book, which is okay because that's part of the process. I would say that in many ways I've circled back to where I originally was. I
uh,
would have told you I was a pantser and wrote by the seat of my pants, but I never really have. In my head, I always have the plot. The characters come first. So the characters inform the plot for me. And they can do that in women's fiction and romance. Not in mystery, not really. They can inform the justice, they can inform the ending and discovering the murder, but they can't inform that whole the mystery plot. And so I have to have that mystery plot nailed down, which is why then when I go to like I was mentioning, I have some revisions which will only make the book so much better. The mystery part and the murder part, that's nailed down. Like that's not the issue. The issue is how the characters are reacting. What do I want, what do I want to see going forward in a series? So um that is so the difference for me is that yes, I can't just, pound away at it. Now, I will say I've had two series, I think. Yeah. I had my Whidbey Island series for Harlequin Super Romance, more women's fiction style. And then I had, although there were dead bodies in those too. And then I had the Silver Valley PD series, which is locally set and it's romantic suspense. Um, Those I could sit down. I still would have I would know what the plot was, but I would have to sit down and it takes me a couple chapters to know my characters. But because I'd be going back to the same characters, then it's a matter of, okay, where are you now? What's happened since the last time we sat down together? So that's helpful, but yeah, I can't just wing it anymore. The other thing is I don't tolerate, everybody always talks about writing the crappy first draft. I can't tolerate that as well. I do have an awful first draft. I don't let the internal editor drive how I'm writing. And by that, for readers, I mean that inner critic that's telling me, oh, nobody's going to want to read this, or that's terrible, or that's a poor word choice. Look, I can use a thesaurus later. Um, but I can't just go off into the either, because then I'll go into a rabbit hole and that's wasted time and energy. And the reality is I'm 15 years older than when I sold that first book. I'm, 22 years older than when I first started submitting books. To sit in a chair and do the work that it requires takes physical, mental, spiritual energy that I want to be judicious with that. I don't know how long these hips are, I hope my hips will allow me to sit or stand and write well until my 90s or hundreds, but I don't know. So I need to keep that as healthy as possible, which means don't waste time on dribble, make sure that each day I'm moving forward, even though sometimes it feels like swimming through jello.
Mm. You've written more than 25 books. You've been writing for more than a decade or so. What have you learned now as a writer that you wish you knew when you were first starting out?
Oh boy, I've learned that I have to do the internal work on myself to know what I want and to trust my inner author voice and to not be swayed, no matter how impressive or how powerful um, different people can be in publishing. The bottom line always comes back to the story. What's my story on the page? Is it something I'm proud of? Is it because honestly, I don't feel my stories are any of my business. That's going to sound weird. I need to get out of the way so the story can get on the page. And then it is my job to do my darnest to get what I've been the vision I've been given in my head to get that to reflect on the page. But then I need to get out of the way. Let the professional editors at it, let that work be done. Yet at the same time, um, if my gut's telling me, this isn't really what I want to be doing, I need to listen to it. And once I did listen to it, so much has opened up for me. So much, and it continue, it evolved while I was at Harlequin too, because it opened up into more the hardcore suspense. And Harlequin allowed me to write series with whole communities, which I treasure that. I don't know a lot of places that would have given me that breath to do that before I had proven myself as a writer. And I wish I had told myself to just relax a little bit. But I think I've always been pretty good at just following my gut. When indie publishing took off with contemporary romance, I was at a particular conference where so many people I know dove headfirst into that, and many of them had great, great success. Could I have? Maybe, but I knew in my gut that's not for me. My job's to write. I'm too much of a perfectionist and control freak. And so I'm grateful I followed that. That's not a lesson I had to learn, but I wish that I would have known to just don't apologize for who I am and how I'm writing and how my career is progressing. It is what it is. It's one book at a time. And for the record, because I do have an ego, this is book 34.
Oh, good.
Yeah, yeah, book 34 and 36 or 37 have been written. There's 3 books for this series already. So this first book is obviously out now, is Santa Stabbing, followed by book 2 in April of 2023, and then later in 2023 will be book 3. So
That's great.
yeah.
I think sometimes for people that don't read in the romance genre and aren't familiar with publishers, there's this misperception of Harlequin as being
Yes,
slightly less than, when in
yes,
reality it's actually a very vibrant, very rich
yes.
source of stories for authors. And uh,
Absolutely.
you found it. Are you going to continue to write for them, or are you kind of shifting gears now?
I'm shifting gears into mystery, obviously 100% and cozy, but I would never say never because it's
Mhm.
about story, and I don't know what story could be dropped in my lap tomorrow that would need a new home. Yeah, I wouldn't be here without Harlequin, and I think I grew up reading Harlequins off my mother's nightstand, followed quickly by Stephen King in junior high school, middle school. I mean, before that, of course, I had read Encyclopedia Brown and Nancy Drew, and Clara Barton or Sue Barton, Student Nurse. Those books,
Yeah.
those I remember all those. I loved them. Everything by Beverly Cleary, including what would now be considered YA, Judy Blume. Um, I read all of those, and to me, being able to write for Harlequin, that was a dream. That was something that was just a goal I had. It didn't hurt that I grew up in Buffalo, New York, and the distribution warehouse for Harlequin is in Depew, which was
Oh,
the suburb over from where I grew up in Cheektowaga. So yeah, Harlequin was just, it was like it just seemed to me like a natural thing. And I never realized that some people kind of look down their nose sometimes at the romance genre and category romance, especially the most common and frequent um, critique of my work that I had all through all the Harlequin books was that, oh my gosh, that was so good. I wasn't expecting that. And yes, many sarcastic replies come to mind, but that's not going to be fruitful for author reader relationships or for reading in general. And I think Jane Ann Krentz has really expressed it best why a woman's genre has been poo-pooed and all that through the years. And I don't feel it is anymore. I'm sure there are some people that do, but that's not my problem. Other people's opinions of me or my work are none of my business. I have to just keep putting the stories down. And look, I was able to write 30 books with Harlequin, 30 stories. Some of those are online reads. I had 3 other books with a different publisher. I tried to do sexy contemporary. It's not me, but I tried. I'm always willing to try any. And those books had dead bodies too. I think one of them did. So yeah, I'm always I was like a miner, just trying to find where do I fit? Where's the vein for me? And I know I found it in mystery.
I think some people would be surprised to find that many authors that they consider to be kind of the pinnacle of success, like Jane Ann Krantz and Nora Roberts, got
Mhm.
their start with Harlequin and Silhouette. So,
Absolutely, and that Nora Roberts has had me to her bookstore in,
oh,
Boonesboro graciously twice I've signed there, and I signed when that happens, you move well over 100 to 200 books depending on how many people are at the signing.
mhm,
Um, you know, I was I is it Karen Moaning? I sat next to
yeah,
her for a
mhm,
signing. That was wild. I mean, her readers are amazing.
yeah,
Um, but, yeah, so many peo and that was always my goal was I always thought, "Okay, I'll write" I remember thinking, "Okay, I'm gonna have to write 50 to 100 Harlequins, then I can write." Because I looked at Suze Brockman, I looked at, I can see her face and it'll come to me in a minute, but in
mhm,
Sandra Brown, her
yeah,
work I've always loved. Yeah, and they all came out of Harlequin, and it, there's no reason for everybody to know that, but if you're a
mhm,
reader, you usually know that, and it used to be that people switched names, they took different names, or they had to have the pen name at Harlequin. Those days are gone because I keep asking my agent, do I need a pen name? If it no,
mhm,
those days are gone. It's your body of work and readers can always find you. That's the beauty of the digital age too, is people can go read my backlist anytime. It won't be what they read in a Santa stabbing, but it might still be just as entertaining for them depending on what they like.
I think an author's voice, for the most part, remains consistent no matter what type of story they're telling. So your
Mhm.
story may be different when you're writing romantic suspense versus a cozy mystery, but the voice that you're using, I can see your voice in
Mhm.
each of your books, even
Oh, thanks.
all the way back to your first book, A Rendezvous to Remember. And it
Yes. Yeah.
understand correctly, that one has been republished or is available now?
Yes, it was republished once so far. I'd love to see that one republished again because World War II. I'm married to a World War II history expert. Literally, my husband got his master's in that, and I've always been fascinated by World War II. That was a really special book because I wrote that in Belgium. We were stationed in Belgium, and I found out after it sold, and that was my first book. I got the call when we were stationed there. The home we were living in, where I wrote, what the room I had made my office. This had used to be a huge country estate, I think, or similar, and it had been divided up into apartments, but still bigger than the average American home. It was the parade viewing room where they used to go to see on the plots, parades and different social events. Well, during World War II, the Germans camped there. And so the resistance in the area fired and killed a lot of the Germans one night so someone who lived in our house may have killed a German soldier during World War II. And the Germans came back 2 days before the town of Larue was liberated, right around when Mons, Mons, Belgium was liberated. They came back and took vengeance on many of the resistance. So and while I was writing that book, I, I would see, a couple times a year, they still had a very somber parade and would lay a wreath for those lost. And I mean, it gives me chills to think about it. It was like serendipity to write the book, which includes a whole World War II plot and including the Holocaust and yeah, doing all that research. It's really interesting to me how things unfold. But yeah, my voice was there. I like to think though my sense of humor, I don't know if I didn't allow it to come out or I just couldn't write it until now. And it seems to be coming out a lot more. And in the last few Colton continuity series I did for Harlequin, I don't know where it came from, but I put in a couple of scenes, one including the hero losing a tooth or chipping a tooth in the middle of something important. I think he was a movie star. They gave me the story and I wrote it. I loved it. And my editor loved it. She just, and so that was great to get that encouragement. So yeah, there wasn't too much to laugh at in A Rendezvous to Remember, but it still had a happy ending, which is
Yeah,
great.
it did. You've mentioned a little bit of your reading background. Now that you're writing cozy mysteries, do you have your own favorite cozy series that you follow, cozy authors that you?
Yes, I love the husband and wife team of Cleo Coyle.
Oh yeah.
And I love the Cat in the Stack mysteries. Love, love those. And the author, of course, I should have written all these down so I wouldn't forget them when we're talking. I like Ellery Adams. I think she's
Mhm.
exceptionally talented. I also just found one, I think it's Juno Black. It's another team of writers, and they write the Woodland Creatures mystery. I
Oh
think they have
yeah.
two
They
books.
just, I think
Oh
the
my
third
gosh,
one just
they're
came out.
darling.
It's like the
Yes,
Potter solves mysteries or something.
yes, it
Yeah.
is phenomenal. So well written and just delightful. And I'd be the first one to make fun of people doing a dog POV or a
Mhm.
fox, but I love this. It's just so beautifully done. And it's fantastic. I really enjoy those. I also, I mentioned Louise Penny, who's been a great inspiration to me
Mhm.
because I started reading her books and right about the time I came up with the Silver Valley PD series at Harlequin Romantic Suspense. And so our local bookseller, Michelle Herring, who was, number one independent bookseller for RT and RWA different years. And she's just been so supportive of my career. She came back from a book signing where she met Louise Penny and gave me a little pen with a pin with the three pines. And I
Wow.
have that on my denim jacket. And that's just like, it's just like a reminder to just keep writing. And here I am writing a mystery series, two of them now. So, I mean, yeah, it's pretty cool.
You've mentioned that there's a couple more coming in the series. A Midsummer
Yes.
Murder is the next one.
Yes, A Midsummer Murder. So Angel is doing what a lot of people do here in central Pennsylvania on a hot summer day. They do a creek float. They go in inflatable. I've done it. I'm sure they used to use just plain old inner tubes back in the day. A lot of people kayak too, but you just let the stream take you along. Of course, she's out there with her brother who can he can get them into trouble. He has a great sense of humor, but she's trying to do more of that sibling bonding. What she did a lot of bonding with her older sister. She's the youngest of three, with her sister Crystal during a Santa stabbing. So I wanted to bring out her relationship with her brother and his husband in this second book. And of course, she and her brother, well, they get snagged on something going down the river. And it's a dead body. I'm not spoiling it. It's on the cover. The cover's already out there. And then we know the third book is called A Wasp in the Woods. And that was inspired by true life because I was using my grandmother's hedge trimmers, electric hedge trimmers. Now, these were probably, it was Black and Decker. Why I hadn't invested in nicer ones before now, I don't know, but I was trimming hedges this summer and didn't know there was a big wasp nest in there, a hornet nest, and I got stung. So, life imitates, art, or art imitates life. So anyway, I thought, wow, this would be a great way to kill somebody who is really allergic. And
Oh,
yeah,
hmm.
yeah,
Any other projects you'd like to share with readers coming up?
yep. I have big news that I'm so happy to say that the Kabasa Queen Mystery Series, set in Cheektowaga, New York, where I grew up, Buffalo, New York, is coming out in hardcover and ebook in July 23rd, 2023 from Severn House Publishing.
Oh,
They're a UK publisher, and I to to sell a mystery series to a UK publisher where I consider to be the birth of the mystery novel is just wow, beyond my wildest dreams. I'm one blessed and lucky girl, I'll tell you that.
their books are also distributed in the US. So for readers who are
Yes,
interested,
yes, yes,
they're
yes,
based in Britain, but we do get a lot of the Severn House books at the Poison
yes.
Pen too. That's
Yes, and they I guess they started because they're owned by Canongate Books, and as we were talking just before we went live.
true.
I'm obsessively research everything that I get involved in or don't get involved in. And Canongate, I guess traditionally what Severn House has done is they put the hardcovers in North American libraries, and they distribute mostly to North America. So yeah, it's very exciting. And the first book that comes out in July is The Kabasa Killer. And the protagonist is Lydia. And Lydia, she will say that she quit, but she may have been kicked out of pastry school in Ottawa, Canada, a precursor of the Cordon Bleu, um, because she wanted to just make homemade Polish baked goods. And Madame Delphine, who was running it, was trying to teach her, the true art of French pastry. But at any rate, she comes back home and she wants to open up her own bakery and cafe with just featuring Polish American food. Unfortunately, her dad has a stroke right when she gets home at Christmas time, and he's a butcher, and she has to save the family butcher business. And she grew up butchering beside her dad. And the book opens on Good Friday of Easter weekend, which is the biggest selling day of the year for a Polish American butcher shop because of the
Oh,
kielbasa and the ham that will be all part of the Easter dinner on Sunday. And Lydia makes a startling discovery of a dead body, maybe in a kielbasa smoker in their backyard, because she was using the backyard smoker because she needed to make extra kielbasa. So it goes from there. And it's actually Lydia and her grandmother that are solving crimes in this series. She and her grandmother are both sharing a flat above the garage that Lydia moved back into when she came back from Canada. Grandma's there because Grandma got taken for a ride by some guy she was dating. Grandma has an active dating life and is quite the hippie kind
mhm.
of person, not a conventional grandma, although she does invoke conventional methods and thoughts and love and all that good stuff. And I will just share that when I asked I always ask, what was your favorite scene? Where, what do you think I need to work on? Both my agent and the editor who acquired this, uh, they chose the bingo hall scene as their favorite. So there is a really exciting, there's actually two bingo scenes in there. That is such a part of where I grew up there. And I also realized this is a love letter to where I grew up
Your
and the
culture.
whole area. Yeah, my culture. Because, yeah, yeah, the Polish American thing, it's just part of who I am. My dad's still there. He's 87. He's not in Cheektowaga, but still in Western New York. And when I go up and visit, and I like to drive through Cheektowaga, which inspired the whole series. And yeah, it's how I grew. I grew up hearing polka music on Saturday mornings when my grandma was cleaning. We lived upstairs of her till I was 3,
Yeah.
and then we moved out to the suburb. But yeah, I'm really excited about this series, about both series. I mean, I get to write, and that's the other thing I realized, even with having revisions due on 2 books now, which is part of author life, instead of panicking, I thought, gosh, I love both of these, and both of these stories are something that I created they're my babies and I love them. And I'm I'm feeling the love right now. I just had a release party yesterday for a Santa stabbing. Normally I always sign at my local bookstore, which I will be doing in December. But I knew back in May, like I should mark that my first mystery book's coming out. So I thought, well, why don't I have it upstairs of the coffee shop where my husband's a barista? That's what he's
Wow.
chosen to do since he retired for now. Like he could change his mind, but he's been doing that the last several years. And so my bookseller agreed to bring the books there. And I wanted it to really celebrate all the local readers that came out. Every single time I had a category romance out, which was often several times a year, and have always been so supportive of me. And then, some friends and family that are, it wasn't, I didn't want it to be a hardship for anybody to come or anything, but I just wanted to do a fun party, and I did it yesterday. And I put it on social media already, and oh, readers can find me on Instagram. Instagram's really my favorite thing because I can post pictures there. It will automatically go to my Facebook page, and I have a website, and so I keep that updated too. But I'm just feeling so much love. Like people really love story, and they love to see an author do something different. Everybody's like, they enjoyed my Harlequins, but they're really excited about the cozy. So yeah, so I'm feeling real blessed today. Now, in about a week, when when I'm entrenched in the revisions, I'm not, there won't be any makeup on John. Let's just say that.
Well, I can't believe how quickly time has flown by. Before we have to end,
Yeah.
you did mention you have a website and social media. Can you let people know what they are so they can learn more about your books?
Sure, GeriKrotow.com. So it's GeriKrotow.com. And all the social media links are there. I'm also Geri Krotow on Instagram and Twitter, but honestly, Twitter, I'm usually retweeting other authors' books that are out, and Phillies scores, but sadly the Phillies are done for this year. But they gave us a good ride. We got till last night. So
Well, it's just been exceptionally wonderful having Geri here to talk about her new book, A Santa Stabbing, which is out and available for readers. I'd like to thank Geri for taking time to
thank you.
visit. I'd like to
Thank
thank
you,
all of
John.
you listening in to another virtual author chat at the Poison Pen Bookstore.
Hello. We hope you're enjoying our programs and podcasts with authors. We'd like to expand them, and your help would be appreciated. Please make a donation at poisonedpenfoundation.org. 100% of the proceeds will go to help connect authors with readers in this difficult time. Thank you.